The millionaire's car sat stranded on the side of the road, its polished body gleaming in the sun, but its flat tire leaving it helpless. Passers-by slowed down, curious but unwilling to stop. Then, out of all people, it was a young black boy, barely 12 years old, wearing worn-out sneakers and carrying a school bag, that approached. With a shy smile, he offered to help. The millionaire, irritated at first, never expected what came next. That moment, simple, small, and unexpected, would change both their lives forever. And it all started with a flat tire on an ordinary afternoon. Richard Langford was not used to being stuck. A self-made millionaire in real estate, he had built his reputation on never slowing down, never getting caught off guard. His luxury sedan was just another symbol of the life he had worked for. Smooth, powerful, untouchable. But that day, fate had other plans. A sharp nail on a quiet neighborhood street left his car limping to a stop. He cursed under his breath, frustrated. His expensive suit was not meant for dirty work, and his phone was out of signal. As he stood outside looking at the flat tire, people passed him by. Some stared at the shiny car, some whispered, but no one offered help. Richard felt exposed, stripped of his usual control. Then he noticed a boy. Around 12 years old, thin, his school uniform faded from too many washes. He carried a bag that looked far too heavy for his small frame. The boy stopped, tilted his head and watched. Richard, impatient, waved him off, but the boy didn't leave. Instead, he put his bag down, knelt beside the tire, and asked softly if Richard needed a hand. The contrast was stark. A millionaire in a tailored suit, and a boy with dirt on his sneakers, kneeling on the pavement. Richard hesitated, but something in the boy's eyes, confidence mixed with kindness, made him step aside. The boy got to work, his small hands moving quickly, determinedly, and in that moment, Richard's life began to shift. The boy introduced himself as Marcus. He lived a few blocks away in a cramped apartment with his mother and younger sister. His father had passed away 2 years ago, and since then, Marcus had learned how to fix almost anything, from broken chairs to flat tires. As Marcus worked, Richard watched. The boy's shirt had holes near the seams. His shoes barely held together, but his hands were steady. He knew exactly what he was doing. Richard, who commanded boardrooms and billion-dollar deals, felt a strange humility watching this child do something he couldn't. A group of teenagers passed by, laughing. One of them muttered something cruel under his breath about Marcus. Wasting time helping rich folks who don't care about kids like him. Marcus ignored it. His focus never wavered. But Richard caught the tone. Racist, bitter, dismissive, and it stung. For the first time in a long time, he felt ashamed, not because of what was said, but because deep down he knew that too often. He had been one of those rich folks who didn't care. Within minutes, Marcus had the spare tire in place. Sweat ran down his forehead, but he smiled as he finished tightening the bolts. "There," he said quietly, standing back. Richard reached for his wallet, pulling out a crisp bill. But Marcus shook his head. "I don't need your money," he said firmly. "Just promise me you'll help someone else one day." Those words hit Richard harder than he expected. Here was a child who had every reason to take the money, who probably needed it more than anything. But instead, he wanted something deeper, something that couldn't be measured in dollars. As Richard drove away, his heart was unsettled. He couldn't stop thinking about Marcus, the boy who fixed his tire but, more importantly, exposed the emptiness in his own success. The next day, Richard couldn't get Marcus out of his head. He drove back to the neighborhood, parking near the rundown apartment buildings. Children played in cracked courtyards, their laughter mixing with the sound of traffic. Richard spotted Marcus walking home with his sister, carrying groceries in both arms. What Richard saw made his chest tighten. The groceries were basic: bread, milk, a few cans, and Marcus carried them with the same quiet determination he had shown fixing the tire. But when his sister tripped, nearly spilling the bags, Marcus dropped his own to help her first. It was then Richard realized this boy wasn't just strong. He was responsible, protective, and carrying burdens far beyond his years. Richard approached, and Marcus froze, unsure. His mother appeared in the doorway of their apartment, suspicion in her eyes. To her, a wealthy stranger approaching her children was not a good sign. But Richard explained, his voice softer than usual. He told her how Marcus had helped him, how he refused money, and how he asked only for kindness in return. Marcus's mother listened, her tired eyes softening. She admitted that life had been hard since her husband passed, but Marcus had been her rock. For the first time in a long time, Richard felt something crack open in him. He had chased wealth, but standing in front of this family, he saw something more valuable: resilience, dignity, and love. Weeks later, Marcus's life changed in ways he could never have imagined. Richard quietly arranged for a scholarship at a private school nearby, ensuring Marcus had access to the education he deserved. He also offered part-time work at his company for Marcus's mother, giving her steady income and dignity. But Richard didn't stop there. He started visiting schools, funding programs in underprivileged neighborhoods, determined to invest in children like Marcus, kids whose potential often went unseen. For Marcus, the biggest change wasn't the new school or the opportunities. It was seeing that his small act of kindness, helping with a flat tire, had rippled into something far greater. His mother cried the day he showed her his scholarship papers, not out of sadness but out of pride. As for Richard, he often replayed Marcus's words in his mind. "Promise me you'll help someone else one day." That promise became his new mission. He had spent years building skyscrapers, but now he was building something stronger, bridges of opportunity for those society ignored. And so, a flat tire on an ordinary day turned into a story neither of them would forget. A young black boy had changed a millionaire's life, not by taking but by giving. And in return, his own future was transformed. Sometimes the smallest gestures carry the heaviest weight. And sometimes the people we least expect become the teachers we need most.